to the 19th.
All right, today on the show we have Kelli Boling. She is a recent PhD graduate from the University of South Carolina whose research is primarily in podcasting, and she's going to tell us all about that. So Kelli, introduce us to yourself and tell us how you got into podcasting.
So I started my PhD at the University of South Carolina, and I lived about an hour and a half away from campus. So I had about an hour and a half drive to and from, and I got tired of the music, and I quickly learned that I couldn't listen to something like NPR because I crossed radio lines. So a podcast was something that I could hit play on and it would take me all the way to campus. And so I started listening to podcasts. More specifically, I started listening to true crime podcasts. And I found that I would get so mentally engaged in the podcast that the commute would felt like it takes seconds. And so I really got into the true crime podcast genre. And in one of my first research classes, I asked the professor, hey, maybe I should research this. And she was so supportive of it that it sort of became, my work for the next 40 years.
Yes, as someone who has also fairly recently completed a dissertation, it just feels like it takes over your life
It does.
when you pick a research topic.
Yes.
So, okay, so true crime. True crime is definitely one of the biggest genres in podcasting. So, talk a little bit about that, and talk a little bit about why you think that genre resonates so well with podcast audiences.
Yeah. So true crime is not just a popular podcast genre, it's a popular genre, books, movies, and things, documentaries, things of that nature. So I believe, and a lot of the research shows that the reason that people are so drawn to true crime is because of the storytelling style. Right. We all love a good story. We've been sitting around campfires telling stories for centuries. So everybody loves to hear a good story. And so true crime has the ability to blur the line of news and entertainment into what a lot of people call infotainment, to where you're listening to something that's real, but it's still told in a storytelling style. And so I think a lot of people have been drawn to it for that reason. I think true crime podcasters a lot of them do a really good job with the storytelling. And because of the serialized nature, it's not necessarily something that people commit to for every week. They commit to it for 12 weeks or they commit to it for 4 weeks, however long the podcast is. And so I think it makes it very accessible.
Yeah. So you also mentioned your commute and getting involved with podcasting on a commute. I think that's something that a lot of people, that's their entryway into podcasting. Our commutes are longer than ever before, so that's an important current trend in podcasting. And can you speak to that and speak to maybe some other trends that you see coming to the medium?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm actually on the job market, and I've told my husband, let's live somewhere far away from where I work so that I actually have a long commute. I've really bought into the idea of mentally decompressing after the day on my commute with podcasts. So, I don't think that's something that's going to go away. Another thing that the research shows is that because most people listen to podcasts in their ears, that our headphones create this sense of an oral cocoon where you're completely immersed in the story and you feel like the podcaster is talking directly to you. And so it gives you this ability to tune out more than ever before. I know we watch a lot of media mobile. We watch YouTube on our phones and videos on our phones on Twitter and things of that nature. But there's nothing like being told a story directly into your ears and being able to cut off the rest of the world while you're listening to it. So I think that is something that sets podcasts apart. I think another thing that sets podcasts apart is not just the oral cocoon and the fact that it's an amazing story, but the fact that the listeners can interact with the host. So I think the true crime podcasters, especially the ones that I follow, do just a wonderful job of posting information on their websites, on social media, on Reddit. That was one of the reasons that I decided to do my initial survey on Reddit, was because um, I saw such an interactive forum out there. And so those hosts want to interact with their audience in a way that you don't see from a lot of other media. I mean, a lot of us will binge watch a television show, but then we don't necessarily go to Twitter to have a conversation about it. Whereas true crime podcasts will post evidence from the case out there, and people will see the case and interact with the case and able to give tips or their own opinions on Reddit or Twitter, and they really feel like they're a participant in the media creation, which is different, I think, than what you see, for example, with books or television or YouTube videos. I mean, it's a way that the audience can participate that I think, especially in a COVID environment, is only going to trend upward. I think we'll see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the legacy media, like television, as you mentioned, have been looking at the trends in podcasting and the engagement that they're able to create, and kind of, whereas podcasting was very recently a stepchild medium, they're like, oh wow, like they're actually doing better, with some of these things that we know really drive overall profitability and overall like audience loyalty. So very interesting. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it and look forward to continuing to follow your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. You can listen to more episodes and find resources for teaching podcasting at podcastpedagogy.com. You can email the show at info@podcastpedagogy.com.